evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, May 19th, 2025 Northwest Local School District Board of Education meeting. We're located at White Oak Middle School tonight. I'll ask everyone to rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance in honor of our flag and our country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Amy, could you take roll call?
Ms. Slattery?
Here.
Mr. Heather?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Mr. Gilbert?
Here.
Mrs. Talby?
Here. And I will read our mission statement. The Northwest Local School District will create a responsive learning community where all students are valued, challenged, and guided along a pathway to success. And now I will need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the agenda before we vote? Yours isn't up there?
Nope. Did you join the meeting? I did.
I don't know. Everybody else has come on.
Did you refresh? I joined the meeting. There we go. Okay.
All right, and that passes without opposition.
Okay, so tonight we're going to start with a special presentation of a military diploma. So at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Heather, Principal Davis, and our honored guests to approach the podium. So the state of Ohio has allowed school districts to award diplomas to members of the military who in World War II, Korea, or Vietnam left school early to join the fight, join the military, and were never able to complete their high school experience. Tonight we are able to honor a Colerain High School graduate, as of tonight, who did just that. And so I'm going to allow Chris Heather, one of our board members, to introduce Thomas to the community, and then Principal Davis will award the diploma.
Thank you. Tom, thank you for coming tonight with your family. I'm going to give you a little background about Tom. Private First Class Tom Ludwig grew up off Jackie's Drive in Groesbeck and left Colerain High School in his junior year in 1967 to join the U.S. Army. I'm not sure why anybody in their right mind would leave their junior year to join the Army to go to Vietnam, but that's what Tom did. He was assigned to the 82nd Airborne 3rd Battalion C Company and served frequently as point man or the lead man on many of his platoon's day and night patrols and operations. Tom received the Combat Infantry Badge, a medal for bravery for rescuing a fellow soldier who stepped on a booby trap and lost both legs. Tom, without regard for his own safety, had run across the same field and dragged that man back to safety, saving the man's life. Tom, I understand the medals for bravery, but how on God's green earth did you get the medal for the good conduct? I don't. Tom has led a good life. He's a member of AMVETS Post 1988 in Montfort Heights, which I'm a member of also, and still suffers from PTSD from the many violent episodes he saw while serving his country in Vietnam. Congratulations to Tom, the newest Coleraine High School graduate. And Tom, thank you for all you did serving our country. There's very few men like you, and God save the United States. And thank you for putting your life on the line to keep this country the great country that it is.
Thank you.
Good evening. What a way to start graduation week. This is exciting. It is a true privilege to have this opportunity to award Mr. Ludwig his well-deserved diploma and to have the chance to honor his commitment to both our nation and to lifelong learning. Mr. Ludwig, your service is appreciated, and you have made Coleraine High School proud. You are the true definition of what it means to be a Cardinal. I'm honored to present Mr. Ludwig, sorry, this is awesome, with his Coleraine High School diploma.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. That's about all I can say for right now. But I'm very happy. Thank you.
So we will follow that with that recent graduate with some future graduates. So we have tonight a special presentation from White Oak Middle School and their student councils. So Janet Haneke is going to introduce student council and some of the students here who are going to talk about their experience.
Thank you, Mr. Yater. I am the student council advisor here at White Oak Middle School, and we are lucky enough to have 27 members of our student council. They start from 7th and 8th grade, and then we add the 6th graders their second semester of their 6th grade year. Tonight, Zach Benjamin and Anaya Brooks have a presentation they'd like to share.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our White Oak Middle School presentation in 2025. I'm sorry, I can't see that, but we hosted 2 dances this year, I believe students got to compete in competitions where they hula hooped against each other and did limbo in our Hawaiian-themed dance for March, I believe. In November for Thanksgiving, we hosted a Thanksgiving, we showed what we were thankful for, which I also spoke at, so, okay. Sixth graders participated in a day of thankfulness. All of the sixth graders could invite their family to eat and have fun at White Oak. The eighth grade student council spoke in front of sixth graders reading different things about Thanksgiving. Eighth grade band members that were in student council performed Christmas music in front of all the sixth graders while they enjoyed their breakfast. In November, hold on, there we go. We also hosted a door decorating contest in December. Each grade had their own Christmas-style theme. Below are all the winners from each grade. Each class that won got awarded a pizza party. Student council members sponsored multiple Spirit Weeks. During these Spirit Weeks, the students of White Oak Middle School would have PJ Day, Bengals Day, Rhyme Without a Reason, 2000s Day, and Wear Pink. I'm going to hand it over to Zach Benjamin.
Hello and good evening. My name is Zachary Benjamin, and I will be telling you a little bit more about what Student Council has done over the year. The White Oak Middle School Student Council also holds the annual Reindeer Games. During this event, there are various activities set up so that students can compete against each other in Christmas activities. Each grade level competed against each other. We also celebrated No One Eats Alone Day, where student athletes from Coleraine High School came to White Oak and ate with our students. This day emphasized how important it is to sit with someone who eats alone. On May 1st, Student Council recognized National Principals Day. We decorated Miss Grody's office, and each grade made a card and gave her flowers to show our appreciation. For Teacher Appreciation Week, we partnered with Pizza Hut, who kindly gave us a discount for our Teacher Appreciation Luncheon. That is all we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys seem to be a very active student council with lots of good ideas and good ways to promote community and get to know each other. So thanks for presenting.
Right, next on the agenda, we have a presentation to talk about our annual services contract with the Hamilton County Educational Service Center. This is an annual contract that comes to the board every year with the various services that we partner with the ESC around. So tonight we're going to talk about why ESCs exist and what their purpose is, and then the departments who utilize those services are going to explain the services they get from the ESC and how they integrate that. So we'll hear from special education, English language learners, curriculum, and then grants in non-public schools. So the ESC is actually a legal entity that has been created as a structure and system across the state of Ohio. It is something that is required for districts who have an enrollment less than 16,000 to be aligned with and connected to an educational service center, and they act as a regional hub across the state of Ohio. There are about 51 service centers across the state of Ohio, serving over 600 of Ohio's public school districts. And as I said, districts our size are required to partner with a local ESC. They also, as a regional hub for the state, are part of a statewide system of disseminating information, professional development, and resources to all of Ohio's school districts. So there are within their state support teams built into the structure of the ESC. And those state support teams are responsible for making sure that updates from the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce are brought to the local districts, and they are that connective tissue between the department and the school districts. They are their own legal entity, have their own board that governs them as well. Some of the things that ESCs across the state of Ohio do is that they offer a full-service staffing management. So they offer a wide range of staffing options for districts depending on the size and the need of the district. For staff that are ESC employees but placed in local school districts, they also cover the leave. So if a staff member goes on a leave of absence for some reason, the ESC is responsible for backfilling that position, not the district. They do offer expertise and support in a lot of various arenas, including special education, ELL, and curriculum. So they do bring together regional resources around that and provide a professional learning network for those areas. Back one.
Good evening, I'm Siobhan Neal. I'm the Director of Special Education, so I'm going to talk to you about the services that special ed uses Hamilton County for. So we typically use Hamilton County for all of our related service providers, and they provide specialized students to our students with disabilities that are outlined in students' IEPs. So right now, about 20% of our total population are students with disabilities. And to determine the amount of staff we need, we follow what the Ohio Administrative Code is, so it's a two-prong approach. So the first thing is each related service provider has a maximum number of students that they're allowed to have on their caseload. The second prong is where we have to look at the workload calculator, so they take in all aspects of the job, just not the number of students that they provide direct service to. It also looks at meeting time, writing reports, doing evaluations. Travel time gets factored into that because some of them go in between buildings. Okay. So first is speech-language pathologists, and their role is to support students with communication needs. So for their caseload for preschool, they're allowed to service 50 students. For school age, speech are one of those outliers. It's not a number of students, they use a weighted caseload. So depending on the category you qualify for special education, they count differently. So for example, a student with a learning disability just counts as one student, but a student with autism would count as a 1.6. So even though their max caseload is 80, they're typically serving about 50 to 60 students, depending on the needs in that particular building. Next, we have occupational therapists, and they're really working with fine motor, some independent skills, some sensory processing. Their caseload max is 40 for preschool and 50 for school age, and that's per student. They don't have the weighted caseload. Next, we have school psychologists. So mainly their role is to do evaluations, but they also do support some students with mental health, behavioral needs, and they also work with our building teams for like our RTI MTSS systems. So their max caseload in preschool is 75 and school age is 125. We also have physical therapists, and they really work with mobility, some gross motor skills, making sure students can access our buildings. Their caseload for preschool is 40 and school age is 50. We also have orientation and mobility specialists, and they are supporting our visually impaired and blind students with access to navigate their community and our schools safely. Their caseload is 40 for preschool and 50 for school age. We also get supports from audiologists and teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing and teachers for the visually impaired. So for the teachers of the visually impaired and hard of hearing, we really just use the workload. They don't have a max caseload. And typically, even in a district our size, we don't get to what the max is for them. So for next school year, what we've recommended for the contract this year is 13 school psychologists, and you can see the cost on the screen, 3 educational specialists, so they support our school psychologists and do some of the testing and paperwork that will support some of the work they do with evaluations. We have 19.1 speech and language pathologists, 12.6 occupational therapists. And some of the benefits of just contracting for these services is it does allow us to tailor based on district needs. As you can see, even with speech and OT, It's a point something, so we don't need a full staff member to kind of meet those caseload requirements. It does give us that flexibility. And then also, especially with school psychologists, there's pretty significant shortages statewide, so they're very difficult positions to fill. The other services that are going to be a part of our contract is we participate in the Assistive Technology Consortium, and that gives us access to assistive technology equipment. So some of our hearing impaired students that need like an FM system, or if we have students that need some sort of specialized program for a communication device, it allows us to trial devices and things before we would purchase those. We also have audiological consultation, and that's just determined as needed. We need 3 sign language interpreters to work directly with students one-on-one. We contract for the teacher of deaf and hard of hearing, orientation and mobility services, and we also have a Braille assistant that brailles materials for one of our students. The benefits for contracting for this service is because most of these professionals require advanced training, and sometimes it's just hard to find people with that level of training for those specific needs. And lastly, it can vary year to year, the number of students that we have that are visually impaired or hearing impaired. Like I said, we typically don't have enough to have a full caseload in some of those services.
We're paying one person $44,000 for one-on-one with a student that needs Braille.
They are a Braille, so they braille all of the students' materials.
But we just have one student?
We just have one student. That requires Braille. And so she can do the work in 3 days, and that's why it's 0.6. So the teachers have to provide all the work in advance to get it brailled.
Is that a one-year contract with that person?
It is. We renew it every year based on the student's need.
So if that student left tomorrow, we'd still have to fulfill that contract?
I believe.
And we need to change this, we can amend the contract. These are the maximum amounts that we would pay.
Okay. And then on the previous screen, you had 19 speech and language pathologists. So we're paying to have multiple at each school?
Yes, it's
Full
based
time?
on, that's where I said we have to look at that weighted caseload. So like some buildings might be 2.6, one building might be 1.4. It just depends based on that caseload and that workload calculator. We determine how many we need, and that's something that's looked at very closely by our department and monitored to make sure we're just requesting exactly what we need.
Okay, thank you.
And we can adjust that. So sometimes if we have lots of kids leave, we always revisit it in August with them. Okay, and then just kind of talked about, but we do review this every year, make sure that we're only requesting what we need. The other thing is physical therapy. We do not use Hamilton County for that. We use another vendor that is a little bit more cost effective. So we are always analyzing what our needs are and where's the best cost effective solution. For next year, we do have some changes. We actually have a staff member in the district that took advantage of a free program to get certified as a teacher of the visually impaired. And so we've changed her position, so she will be servicing those students, and we are no longer contracting with Hamilton County for that position. And then this past year, we contracted with them for some BCBAs and behavioral specialists, and we've decided to bring those back into district. So we have hired a BCBA and a behavioral specialist. Any more questions for me before I turn it over?
Sorry, I'm just seeing this, so we just have a lot of questions. Are we, the therapists that are at our schools are only dedicated to those schools? Do we ever look at the cost to have one that we hire to stay at that school versus paying Hamilton County outside?
We have before. We have hired our own school psychologist previously, but then she left in a year. Like, as I said, there's such a shortage statewide, and sometimes just, they can pretty much go anywhere. But we have looked at that before.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know, are our numbers pretty typical for our district our size and with our level of special needs?
Yes, because I think everybody has to follow that two-prong approach to caseload. So every school district has to do that. So, we work with the supervisors there, and it is a time-consuming process, especially with speech, because we have to look at those disability categories. So we factor out what the weighted caseload is for them, what's the caseloads for the other using the workload calculator, and we try to ensure that, we're getting exactly what we need to make sure we're meeting our students' needs.
Thanks, Siobhan.
Hi, I'm Jenny Blust. I am the Federal Program Supervisor for the district, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our services with Hamilton County that we contract for our English Language Learner program. Right now, 7.6% of our students attending Northwest Local School District are identified as English language learners. There's an additional percentage of students who have tested out of the program, but their parents, caregivers, guardians are also non-English speaking. This year, the Northwest Local School District will be contracting with Hamilton County to provide a part-time ELL professional development coach and a part-time family support specialist. The PD coach works directly with staff as a mentor to assist them in obtaining TESOL licensure and ensuring best practices in our TESOL and our general education classrooms. The coach also works directly with our Northwest Local School District administrators to ensure that we're complying with the many, many, many complex federal laws that we are required to follow. All of these two positions are dependent on grant funds. So the grant is very restrictive to specific uses, but it does allow us to ensure that we're meeting the federal requirements, especially for highly qualified TESOL staff, which is very difficult for us to obtain. For next year, forgot I was in charge. All right, so for next year, the estimated cost for this staff is $88,882. But these contracts right now, you will not see these on tonight's Hamilton County contract that you're looking at, because these contracts are held until our grant funds are awarded in June. All right, because we can't obligate ourselves to these contracts until we actually know that we have the money. Right?
So the 88 is expected to be a fully 100% funded grant position?
Oh yes, it absolutely, at this point, but the federal budget's kind of in limbo right now, but we would, so then that kind of gets me to the benefits of contracting for these services, because grant funds are not available till July 1st of every year, and so we hold the service agreement, like I just said, and it allows us to increase or reduce days worked by these people as the need arises. So if something happened and we received our grant and it was considerably lower than we expected it to be, we would go back and we would look at these contracts and we'd say, well, we might only be able to afford this or whatever. So working with Hamilton County allows us to adjust those contracts and not have a full-time employee that we're contracted with that then we wouldn't have a job for. It actually allows us to share highly specialized, high-quality staff with other districts. So if we were trying to hire somebody and said, we can only hire you for 3 days a week or 2 days a week for this position, we may not be able to attract high-quality staff, but Hamilton County can help us by combining that job and offering a full-time job to someone. And then this highly specialized position, these positions require intensive, ongoing professional development. The laws change every day, every minute. And Hamilton County is able to have a consortium to connect with Ohio Department of Education and those professionals so that we're meeting those federal requirements and doing what's best for our kids.
In the past 5 years, how many of those years have we gotten the full? Has it been?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
In the past 5 years, how many years have we gotten the full amount that we expect to cover that contract?
And we've always covered it with grant funds.
But you said 88,000. Have we always gotten that amount?
Oh yeah, we use two different grants. We use our Title IV grant and we use our Title III. We also have a Title III immigrant, so we can balance those grants to be able to pay for what we need.
Okay. And we don't think it would be viable. I know Princeton has a full-time person that travels throughout their district to do a lot with English language learners, and I don't know their percentage of them, but, excuse me, we've looked into that and just don't feel like that's a need for
We've
ours.
investigated, we have a hard time just filling our TESOL positions right now. When I first took this over about 6 years ago, the ELL program, most of our tutors and our teachers who were working in the EL program were not TESOL licensed or endorsed.
Okay.
So by hiring this PD person to work with our teachers and use some of the alternate pathways with mentorship, I think I only have 2 right now that are working on their TESOL endorsement. They're in classes right now, but everyone else is fully licensed with TESOL. And the HR person is over here going, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So they're endorsed. So we've been able to increase the quality of our services.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Brenda Miller, the Director of Curriculum. So from the Curriculum Office, I get this to advance, there we go. Okay, we purchase one set of services for gifted identified students. So from the Hamilton County ESC, we purchase services for gifted coordination as well as for gifted professional development. The cost to the district for that is about $62,500 per year. We use that person for making sure, just like Mrs. Bless said, to making sure that we stay in compliance with Ohio's operating standards. They keep us updated, they stay connected. Hamilton County provides all of the professional development for that highly specialized position. One of the requirements that you may or may not know is that when we serve our gifted students through what's called a cluster model, where our general education teachers provide that gifted service, we have to provide highly qualified professional development every year that is around the gifted competencies. And so our consultant from Hamilton County is credentialed to be able to present and approve that professional development. The funds for gifted are restricted from the state of Ohio, so they can only be used for gifted identification and service. So this is one of the ways that we choose to use those restricted dollars to support our students and families who are identified as gifted. Any questions I can answer? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about our grants for our non-public schools. We serve as the fiscal agent for 8 non-public schools that are located within our district boundaries. There are multiple fund sources that they, grants and things that they access services that we are the fiscal agent for. That includes auxiliary funds, Title IIA, Title IV, lots of different grants that we work with them on. The Northwest Local School District currently contracts with Hamilton County, Catapult, Beach Acres for counselors. I'm going to read this because there's a lot. Counselors, nurses, school psychologists, intervention specialists, reading specialists, gifted specialists, instructional coaching, professional development, speech pathologists, audiology services, and occupational therapists. The days and the amounts of time needed at the non-public schools through these grants vary by year and are very dependent on the amount of funding that they receive. The non-public schools have the ability to select their preferred vendors. And as long as the vendors meet criteria that we put in place. So we're not that restrictive. We just make sure that they're following all the laws and they're doing things. So they come to us a lot and they say, I'd like to contract with this vendor. So we get a copy of the contracts, we review them, and we say, okay, if for any reason we said no to a contractor, we would have to put that in writing in our consultation guides and tell them why we were not allowing them to use a certain vendor. This year, those contracts for next year, again, will be developed and brought to the Board of Education for approval when the grant funds are available, which will be July 1st. So we're currently in the middle of consultation with our non-public schools to determine uses of funds. But for last year, I can tell you that the Board of Education approved over $1.7 million in contracts for purchase services for the non-public schools. That's not just Hamilton County, but that's just different vendors that they use. We also have our own employees that work at the non-public schools, strictly limited to tutors who work hourly. We do hire those because we can, help them get a better deal on those kinds of services. So again, the benefits to contracting for these services for us, grant funds aren't available till July 1st of every year, and they could change in a moment's notice. We have the ability to increase or reduce as the non-public budgets allow, and then we also can share highly specialized, high-quality staff across non-public schools and across multiple districts. So we actually have counselors that might work 2 days a week in our district, not for us, but at St. James, and they might work 3 days a week at St. Ives. That's within the same district, but others might go down to St. Francis Seraph and work for 2 days. So they're able to kind of put that together. Questions?
I think on that, I think it's great that we do that, and I think we need to be more vocal to our taxpayers of the services that we help provide for the non-public. I don't think a lot of people are aware of all the work that goes on behind the scenes that is done for all of the students that live in our community, so.
I sometimes talk more with non-public principals than I do our own during given weeks, especially last week.
Yeah.
So.
It used to be when we gave money through wherever we got it, they used to have to stay outside the building in vans.
No, they changed that.
Okay.
They changed that rule, so we are allowed to be in the buildings.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
but
you.
you are absolutely correct. We used to have to rent trailers and mobile things and mobile units so that our teachers were not inside that building. Absolutely, that law has changed.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. So who sets the cost for Hamilton County? Is that their board does that, or? Because I think what I kind of interpret as unfair is you have these other school districts that are much more well-funded than we are, and we're paying the same cost, right? Am I looking at this correct? So if we had a psychologist and we paid $100,000, they went to Sycamore, they still pay $100,000, but yet we're underfunded by the state, and we're required to do this because the state says you have to do this.
The costs from the ESC are set by the ESC, and then it's consistent for whichever district purchases from them. It's a set price. Now, I will tell you that in the past, the ESC has partnered with us. When Siobhan talked about the ed specialists working with the school psychs, that was something that they came to us because of the school psych shortage and said, we have an idea that we think could retain school psychs and increase their capacity. And so the first year they tried that, they partnered with us and didn't charge us for the ed specialist because they were piloting that to see how it would work, and then rolled that into the cost the next year. So we have been able to partner with them with some creative ideas and get some funding cuts for that year that we pilot, but after the pilot it goes back to a set cost.
Then are they for lack of a better term, are they like basically for-profit? Do they want to make money, or do they want to break even at the end of the year for their financial accountability? Do you know?
They don't have a zero fund balance, but they are a governmental entity just like a public school district, a career center, and an ESC. They're created by Ohio Revised Code.
And they do get state funding from the state of Ohio through the budget bill as well.
Okay.
This year, we're approving $5.8 million and then 6 additional contracts, and it says 2 for bilingual assistance for Houston. Is that correct? 2 additional, it's on the vendor contracts?
We had a contract for bilingual evaluations,
Okay.
so we just pay for those as needed individual if we have an EL student that needs to be evaluated in their native language. So we just contract for those as needed. And I think there was 2
There's
that needs to
2
be
on there.
approved.
Okay. But the $5.8 million, is that, where does that rank with all of the other schools that contract with Hamilton County? Where do we rank in what we pay them?
I don't know. I can see if they have that, but I don't know how we rank with them. It all depends on the number of services. Like Siobhan said, 20% of our students are identified with a disability. So if another school district our size only has 14% with a disability, they're going to pay less for services because they may have less of a need. If they have a larger population of students with disabilities, they may pay more.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next, we'll move to the Student Achievement Liaison Report with Nicole.
Yep, tonight we are recognizing at White Oak Middle School with academics. We had 6 8th graders honored with the Principal's Award for earning 4.0 grade point average for their entire time at White Oak. And these students are Estelle Armstrong, Donovan Enterline, Braden Murray, Molly Ritzy, Maya Slavin, and Dashiell Seuss. So congratulations to them. And 43 students at White Oak will receive the highest honors award for earning a perfect 4.0 this school year, including 13 8th graders, 15 7th graders, 15 6th graders. And we would like to congratulate all of these students on their academic achievements. And then we also have 8th grade, 7th grade, and 6th grade students that are earning the highest honor award. So congratulations to them as well. And at Struble Elementary School, the 2nd grade students at Struble had a wonderful opportunity to explore animals in their habitats at the Cincinnati Zoo. The students have been exploring insects through their CKLA program. The excitement on the students' faces as they recognized the insects at the zoo that they had been learning about in class was pure joy. Students were particularly fascinated by the leaf cutter ants and were overheard using vocabulary words while discussing what they were observing. They were making real-life connections throughout their learning. The trip was a fantastic day of learning for our Struble Blue Jays, and smiles were seen for students and adults alike. And at Corrine High School, Yami Perez Castro is a 9th grade student at Corrine High School, and from the moment her counselor met her, she recognized that Yami was a gem. Yami is academically sound and very responsible, but the most impressive thing about Yami is her strength of her character. Yami is incredibly bright and has maintained a 4.0 GPA this school year, but what has impressed everyone is her resilience. Yami has fought and won a cancer battle. She comes to school every day with a smile on her face and gets the highest grades. She has not allowed this setback to hold her back, and she continues to do her best no matter how she feels. Yami is very humble and kind student and deserves to be recognized for her accomplishments in and out of the classroom. At Montford Heights Elementary, the 1st grade teachers planned a fun, culminating learning activity for the entire grade level after they finished their CKLA unit on fairy tales. Students can now watch to see if they will grow to the sky like Jack and the Beanstalk. And at Taylor Elementary, the kindergarten students at Taylor showed amazing growth on their end-of-the-year Diebels reading assessment. The percentage of students who scored at or above benchmark increased from 25% at the beginning to 66% at the end of the school year. There was a 43% point increase in phonetic awareness and a 57% point increase in letter sound knowledge. At the beginning of the year, only 2% of students were blending. By the end of the school year, 69% of kindergarten students were blending. These dramatic improvements will support Taylor with improving its early literacy component rating on the report card. At Pleasant Run Elementary, PRE would like to recognize the progress of their 3rd grade students in math. The 3rd grade students at PRE moved from 34th to the 50th percentile from the beginning to the end of the school year. PRE would also like to celebrate the progress of their 4th and 5th grade students in reading. The 4th grade students moved up 12% in reading, and 5th grade was close behind with a 10% increase. The number of PRE students scoring on or above grade level in 1st grade for reading also increased by 43% this school year. At Corrine Middle School, CMS would like to congratulate their current and former GMC champions and state qualifiers. Each student received a banner with their name and athletic accomplishments on it. And so these students are shown here with their banners, which will be hung just like the ones here at White Oak. And at Corrine Elementary, in fine arts, our Corrine Elementary students recently participated in the Community Night and Fine Arts Show at Corrine High School. Congratulations to all of the little Cardinals who had their work displayed for the community to see. And at Corrine High School, we'd like to also congratulate all of their students that participated in the Community Art Show, and their artwork can be shown here. And back at Struble, Struble Elementary's Music Club hosted their spring concert, during which they performed a selection of songs about nature. Students sang songs in English, Italian, Finnish, and performed arrangements of their songs using xylophones and glockenspiels. Congratulations to all the student musicians and to their music teacher, Ms. Rollison, on a successful performance showcasing their learning and hard work all semester. At Houston Elementary Early Learning Center, the students and families at Houston met together to celebrate spring and participate in their annual egg hunt. Students demonstrated good citizenship by sharing the eggs they found with other students and their younger siblings. A great day was had by all. And at Corrine High School, as part of community service, Corrine would like to recognize their 15 seniors who are committed to serving our country after graduation by enlisting in the military. Several of these students are also planning to continue their education during or after their service. And we had Navy, Marine, Army, Air Force, Air National Guard. So 15 students, and we thank them for continuing their service. And the district and Butler Tech would like to congratulations and announce that 4 of our students are national champions. This is an awesome feat. The National Conference for BPA was held in Orlando, May 7th through 11th, and there's over 12,000 students, from 39 states, plus South Korea and China, that came together to compete. 41 students from Corrine, Northwest, Fairfield, and Lakota competed, and Ashley Heibel, Madison Meyer, Elise Manus, and Madison Bratfish earned first place in the nation in the administrative support team event. And we could not be more proud of these amazing young women who positively represent our district and our community. So congratulations to them and all of our students on their accomplishments. Thank you.
And next, we'll go to the Butler Tech update with Jim.
Just one thing at our graduation is tomorrow night down at Xavier. If anybody wants to show up, come on down. And then I'll have a update on our 3 building projects in 2 weeks.
Oh, great. Yeah. Thank you. And next, we'll have legislative update with Mark.
Great, thank you. I want to shout out to Daryl first for helping me tease through all this, and he helped me pick the most important ones that we want to present this evening. The number one we'll bring is the Senate Education Committee held hearings on House Bill 96, the state budget bill. This is the House version of the bill which flat funds public schools for the next 2 years and caps the cash reserve balances for public schools. We continue to ask our community to advocate for the removal of the cash balance cap. This artificial limit reduces the local control of school boards who may carry a larger cash balance due to recently passed levies, other savings, or utilization of funds for other purposes, such as we did with the funding of Colerain Elementary project, without additional taxation to our community. The Senate bill version of this will be released in early June. The full Senate passed Senate Bill 158. Senate Bill 158 would require each public school to adopt a policy prohibiting the use of cell phones by students during instructional hours. The bill now goes to the House for consideration. On the House side of the chamber, the House Education Committee voted 2 bills to be considered by full House. One bill, House Bill 114, would require students to be 5 years of age by the start of school to be enrolled in kindergarten, and the other would be House Bill 127. This would remove student directory information from the list of information subject to Ohio Public Records Law. And we saved the most important one for last, and that is House Bill 270 is introducing that the state of Ohio adopt Superman as the official superhero of the state of Ohio.
Thanks.
Got to do what you got to do.
All right.
Can't make it up.
And next up, do we have any reports from any employee organizations?
None tonight.
And next we have community comments. And following are the guidelines that will be used for public commentary at board meetings. Individuals wishing to address the board must complete and submit a request to speak form to the board president prior to the beginning of the meeting. Individuals will preface their comments by an announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation if applicable. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak on agenda items of any topic during community comments. Public commentary is confined to that portion of the agenda. Individuals will be recognized to speak once on a given topic. All statements must be directed to the presiding officer. No person may individually address or question board members, district administration, or members of the public in attendance. No response to the speaker will occur from board members, district administration, or members of the public in attendance during this time. Appropriate follow-up by district administration may occur at a later time if warranted. No more than 15 minutes will be devoted to public participation unless the board votes unanimously to continue discussion. Repetitive statements may be ruled out of order by the presiding officer. The presiding officer has the right to terminate the participation of any individual if the person violates the rules of good order. Laws of the state of Ohio determine the powers and duties of the Board of Education, the superintendent, and the CFO treasurer. As a board, we wish to listen to our community comments and not the allotted time. Therefore, Mr. Darrell Yater will monitor the time allotted and provide the speaker with a 30-second reminder and indicate when time expires. Tonight, we do have one community comment. Mr. McVeigh, if you would like to come to the podium.
Thank you, Board. It's good to be with you again. I don't know how you're going to spend your time this summer, but one of the things I'm doing is trying to get up to speed on the growing concept of artificial intelligence. My TikTok feed is loaded with how to do the interesting chats, and I got all sorts of engines that I'm looking at. And the world is changing. If you're not up to speed and you have some time this summer, I'd say get into what's happening in the world of artificial intelligence, because 5 years from now, things are going to be a lot different. In fact, I'm going to make a guess that some of the children you're training today in skill levels, the jobs won't be here in 5 years. So it's an important thing for us to get in touch with. And I'm pleased to be here in front of the board. You're the thought leaders. And I'm encouraging the board tonight to fully embrace integrating artificial intelligence learning tools into our classrooms to prepare our students for a future where technology drives innovation, critical thinking, and global competitiveness. I've walked over the website and I don't see much attention to artificial intelligence anywhere in the district, so that's why I'm here and talking to you tonight. Why does AI learning matter? AI is reshaping industries from healthcare to engineering. By 2030, up to 30% of the current jobs may be automated. Equipping students with AI literacy ensures that they thrive in this evolving landscape. AI tools adapt to individual student needs. We have a lot of those, you heard about them. Offering tailored lessons that improve engagement outcomes, studies show personalized learning can boost student performance up to 20%, in some cases more. It helps to close equity gaps, which we have, you know about. We provide high-quality resources for all students. Other benefits to our district would be AI-driven platforms like math or reading programs or language analyze student progress in real time, offering targeted support. For example, schools using AI tools like Dreambox reported a 15% increase in math proficiency scores within 1 year, and their scores higher than in other districts. Empowering our teachers. AI automatically administrates tasks like grading or progress tracking, freeing teachers to focus on instruction and mentorship. One survey found that 78% of teachers using AI tools felt more effective in their classroom, not burdened. Cost-effective scalability. AI solutions scale across classrooms without requiring extensive infrastructure. Cloud-based platforms reduce costs compared to traditional textbooks, saving more money. There are concerns. You need to learn how to address privacy, but AI tools can do that. Teachers need to be trained in how AI tools will enhance their jobs and not force them to leave. You need to deal with equity. You know, some people have different starting points, and that will impact how they interact with AI tools.
Time has expired.
One more point I would say. I encourage the district to think about this summer, like I'm thinking about it, how you want to put in place.
I'm sorry, but we'll have to ask you to stop because
Oh,
if we
thank
let
you
you
very
go
much.
over, we'll have to make let it for everyone. Thank you, though.
All right, for the consent items tonight, we'll start with personnel.
We seek approval for the following: 30 resignations, 6 retirements, 6 change in status, 11 initial appointments, 1 recalled employee, recalled from a RIF last year, 2 job abandonments, various supplemental items and leaves of absence, revised job descriptions, and annual contract renewals.
We have several donations tonight. We have canopy painting donated to Colerain High School by TQL. Electronic equipment donated to Montfort Heights Elementary from Patty Rusher. We have various items donated to Colerain High School and Northwest High School for the spring games. Those donations were by River City Tents, Goldie and Company, FC Cincinnati, Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library, Green Township Citizens Police Academy, Cincinnati Bengals, and Cincinnati Reds. We also have painting at Colerain High School and Northwest High School by side by side. Library books donated to Struble Elementary by Sarah Blum. We have supplies donated to the Cardinal Closet at Colerain High School by TQL, and we have a monetary donation to Pleasant Run Middle School from the Free Store Food Bank. We also have a few vendor contracts for special ed, auxiliary, and the Hamilton County ESC annual contract.
The superintendent recommends the board approve the consent items as listed.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Couple notes on the personnel. I reviewed hours against some area districts. Oak Hills had 2 resignations this week, Lakota 7, Fairfield 3, Mason 4, and us 30. So what's going on? What do we think is attributing to that?
We haven't had a board meeting in a month. So a lot of it is we had kind of a backup, if you will, because typically we have 2 board meetings a month. The other factor that played heavily was the state dropped the retirement age or the retirement
I'm not
years.
including retirements.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
just okay.
Yeah, and every of the districts that I mentioned had 1 board meeting in May that this was attributing to. So I'm just curious 30 cannot be an acceptable number of people to leave our district. What are we doing to connect with those 30 people, find out why they're leaving, what can we do better? I know people leave jobs, but there's clearly a connection between 30 resignations, staff attendance, staff morale, all those things have to be connected somehow, and what are we doing to change that?
Well, Human Resources has been monitoring our attrition rate, and that is something that we worked with our buildings and our departments on in terms of where people are going, why they're leaving, and we work on strategies around that. They've worked specifically with certain buildings that have had really high attrition rates over the years to work specifically with those departments or buildings to try to put strategies in place to mitigate that where we've seen significant turnover in staff.
So are you able to put together something that shows the, people that are leaving, kind of what we're doing to change, maybe listen and hear people's feedback or meeting with staff at buildings?
Good. Susan?
So we do.
Sorry, I don't mean to not direct, I'm not sure who to direct it to.
As part of our exit process, employees are given the opportunity to complete an exit interview. I've also sat down with several employees this spring, some of them for up to an hour and a half, so to really hear concerns or ways in which they believe that we could provide additional opportunities for employees. And we are working, as Daryl mentioned, around that employee engagement space, really thinking deeply and learning from schools and our teachers about what matters to them in terms of being able to stay in the district and learning from folks who have stayed about what was important to them.
Would you be able to provide us anonymously what the feedback is? I mean, in the past, we've had that, just
yes,
kind of
absolutely.
what what the reasons people's exit interviews, kind of what they're looking for in a district.
Yes,
just for us
absolutely.
to better understand as well. Thank you.
Any more discussion? We'll go ahead and vote. And that passes without opposition. Thank you.
Good evening. First, I'd like to ask the board to dispense with reading of and approve the April 14th regular meeting minutes. We also have our financials from the month of April. Our all funds balance was $107 million. Our general fund unreserved balance was $34.9 million. Our revenues year-to-date are $101 million, or about 90%, so we're on target for the year. And our expenditures are $88 million, or at 80%, so slightly below. But as we're finishing the year, it should bump up a little bit. We do utilize our federal IDA grant funds first before we start using our general funds, so some of the services that we've talked about earlier in the meeting will then come into the general fund as the grant funds are used up. And then our investment weighted average return is 4.29%. Our list of monthly bills, we have our routine monthly bills as well as staff and student quarterly software payments, some textbooks that have previously been approved at the previous board meetings. We had a sewer repair, some security system cameras and equipment, which we utilized our county auditor refund for. The trophy case, our catastrophic plan renovations, and some auxiliary and grant fund payments. And finally, we have, would like to accept, approve, and appropriate the $1,200 for the Pleasant Run Middle School Food Bank. So with that, I ask the board to approve the fiscal consent items as listed.
Can I get a motion and a second?
Second.
And that passes without opposition.
Thank you.
So we have several other items. The first one is part of our Neola Board policy update. This is part of our annual process. This policy would take effect in the fall. The superintendent recommends the board approve the policy update as listed.
Can you get a motion? Any discussion? And that passes without opposition.
Next, we have our textbook adoption for zoology. Superintendent recommends the board approve the textbook adoption as listed.
Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
We'll go ahead and vote on that. And that passes without opposition.
So we'll go back one to the special ed model policies. That one is, we can just stay here and do a verbal, because that's why I went too far ahead. So we'll just do a verbal on the special ed policies, and then we'll be back on track.
Okay.
The special ed model policies and procedures, these are required to be adopted by the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. These have always been in place. Now they're requiring that they be adopted. They are due to be adopted this month, but since they've initially said to do it, they've changed them 4 times. So we've been working through the change process to make sure that we have the right ones for the board to adopt. So these are the special ed model policies and procedures that govern all of the things that Siobhan had mentioned earlier in terms of caseloads, but also services to students and rights to parents and students. So superintendent recommends the board approve the model special education policies and procedures as listed.
Can you get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Heather.
Aye.
Mr. Detzel.
Aye.
Mr. Gilbert.
Aye.
Mrs. Talby.
Aye.
Mrs. Lafferty.
Aye.
All right, so now we'll move on to the resolution authorizing the schematic design and design development in connection with the abatement, demo, and site redevelopment of the current Houston Learning Center in preparation for the new Colerain Elementary. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the board approve the resolution authorizing the development submissions with the abatement, demo, and site redevelopment as listed.
I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? You can go ahead and vote. And that passes without opposition.
Next, we have the parcel consolidation for the new Colerain Elementary School. The superintendent recommends the board approve the resolution to consolidate the 2 parcels into one as listed.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second?
All right, then we can vote, unless there's discussion. And that passes without opposition.
And this one is for the resolution of the contract for the renovations to Northwest High School. Superintendent recommends the board accept the recommendation of the architect and award the base bid of the project to the lowest responsible bidder in compliance with 331346A6 of the Ohio Revised Code and other authorizing provisions of law contingent upon compliance with all conditions precedent to contract execution.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
When do we expect that work to start and finish?
It'll start right after school's out and be finished prior to the
Before.
beginning of school.
Nice.
All right, we can go ahead and vote on that.
Thank you.
And that passes without opposition.
And last, we have a resolution for House Bill 96, the biennium budget bill. This is a resolution for the board to submit their support of removing the 30% cap and advocating for a fair and predictable funding model. The superintendent and the treasurer recommend the board approve the resolution as listed.
Can I get a motion in a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All right, can vote.
Thank you for continuing to put things out to the district and parents and community about that.
And that passes without opposition.
And thank you for supporting the resolution. We will share the resolution with legislators, and they have said it is very helpful to not only hear from us and the public, but to hear a unified voice from a school board. And so that does help with our advocacy efforts, so we appreciate that.
Next, we have the resolution to accept the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission. When we passed our master facility bonds, we passed them, our community passed them for 1.82 mils, and they have rolled back to 1.74 mils. So with that, I ask the board to approve the amounts and rates as listed.
I get a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? You can go ahead and vote. And that passes without opposition.
Next, we have a resolution approving tax increment financing with the City of Forest Park. This is for a 30-year CRA and TIF with a compensation agreement for 0% on the CRA, 50% for the first 15 years of the TIF, and then a make-whole for the last 15 years of the TIF. With that, I ask the board to approve the tax incentive agreement and compensation agreement with Forest Park.
I get a motion as a second.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yeah, Nancy, this is certainly a better TIF than the first one. That way.
We continue to have conversations.
I'll believe it when I see it, that when that place gets torn down and they actually start building something. But let's hope that finally, and it's like I'll believe it when I see it when Northgate's Sears gets torn down. But let's hope.
And that passes without opposition.
What about
Good evening. I'm Amy Wells, the CFO Treasurer, and it's time for our May update to our 5-year forecast. Thank you. Our mission of the Northwest Local School District is to create a responsive learning environment where all of our students are valued, challenged, and guided along a pathway to their success. As part of our strategic plan, we've talked about how one of our pillars is financial stability, and we continually strive to make sure our district remains financially stable. So as we look at our operations of the district, we first need to look at our team. It takes everyone in the district to be able to run our district this size, all of our buildings, all of our departments, and all of our students. But when we're looking at our operations, if you see this chart as a whole of our general fund operations, you can see that our buildings are the largest portions, but we do have central supports that offer support services for all of our departments, our students, and our staff. Another way we can look at our buildings and departments is to show the amount that we're spending within each, so that we focus the majority of our funding towards the instruction, to the support of our students and our staff. But when you're also thinking about the district, you think about your household. So as a district, we operate similar to a household. We have monthly expenses. We have services, transportation, tires, fuel, utilities, technology, repairs, security, maintenance, and even extracurricular activities. However, the difference between the district and the average household is you need to add 2 zeros to your monthly expenses. So tonight we're going to talk about the district overview, our financial summary, our revenues and our expenses, some challenges, some opportunities, and our next steps. As a district, we have a one plan, which has 3 goals: instruction, classroom environment, and attendance. And we ensure that we are allocating our resources to achieving these 3 goals. When we're looking at our financials, we have key initiatives: funding our one plan, adhering to our 3% community partnership, maintaining our cash reserves, and continuing a transparent communication with our community. When we look at our cash flow, our cash balance policy requires that we have 3 months, or approximately $25 million, in our cash balance. This chart illustrates our monthly cash flow balances, and you can see in December and June are the lowest months of the year because we start collecting taxes January, February, July, and August. The state is currently discussing and talking about capping our carryover balance at 30%. If we have the capped at 30 and are required to have 25, you can see that in the low months, it's going to be difficult to maintain our cash balance policy, as well as adjust to inflationary changes, economic conditions, unfunded mandates, and just downturns in the economy. When we look at our revenues and expenses, here's a graph of our revenue trend. You can see that we did have bumps in revenue when our 2019 emergency levy passed, and when we achieved the 20 mil floor in 2024 with the 2023 reval. However, for the most part, revenues do remain flat when they are passed. This chart illustrates the increase in property valuation with the 2023 revaluation and reappraisal. When we look at our property taxes, the state creates the funding formula, and this formula is what's required by school districts for basic education. All services above basic education, including maintenance and infrastructure, are 100% locally funded. This chart illustrates the local requirement by the blue bar. That is what we're required per the state funding formula for basic education only. The green bar is what we're collecting with the 20 mil floor, and the gray bar is the amount of our emergency levies. As you can see, we collect about $2 million above what is required for basic education. This is to do transitions, have assistance, provide a preschool, extracurriculars, gifted services, and I can go on. Transportation outside the mile, anything above basic, include maintenance, and even funding Colerain Elementary. When we look at our property taxes, in 2019, our community passed a 7.5 mil emergency levy. Since 2019, our effective rate has reduced 4.84 mils. This is due to property valuation increases, so as property values go up, millage rolls back, the amount we collect is the same, except for inside millage and being on the 20 mil floor. The breakdown of our property taxes is 81% of our property valuation is made up of residential property, with a smaller portion, about 14%, in commercial. When we look at the state funding formula over time, changes in the funding formula has made changes in the funding we were receiving from the state, and it has been reducing. And the proposed changes currently at the state level reduces our funding from the state even more. In fact, it's trending down to 10% state funding. This chart illustrates the breakdown of a per pupil basis between local and state percentages. On a local level, we're required to pay almost $6,000 per student towards basic education, while the state is putting in about $2,000. However, when you look at all of our funding sources, local, state, and federal, locally we're getting about 45% with property taxes and another 10% from things like interest and tuition for students that are attending here but are residents of other districts. The state is providing about 27%, and the federal government provides about 18% for total operations. However, if we just look at general fund only, our general fund includes state and local revenues, not including the federal grants because those are for additional services above and beyond. 57% of our general fund revenues are from local property taxes, with 10% coming from other local revenues, and 27% is coming from the state, with an additional 6% in state tax credits. These tax credits help offset our community's tax bills. As we shift on to expenditures, this illustrates our expenditure trend, where we have been and we're projected to go. We continue to maintain our 3% partnership, adhering to not increasing our annual operations by more than 3% annually. When we look on a per student basis, 72% of our general fund expenditures are for instruction, straight to our teachers and our students, and that equates to about $65 per day per student. Another way to look at instruction, as we talked tonight, is 20% of our students are identified with special needs. However, they're making up about 33% of our costs. And our students are coming with greater needs, and the costs are rising significantly. When we look at our general fund expenditures, 76% of our expenditures are on personnel. Service industries typically spend between 80 and 85% of their budget on personnel. Purchase services make up another 18%, with supplies coming in about 3%. And again, as we have talked over the years, every November, every May, our operations don't change by very much. It's the same types of things annually, year after year. When we look at our report card, our expenditure per pupil was $10,000, with the state average of $12,000 and the county average of $12.9. As we look at the complete picture, and we're comparing our annual operations, not including one-time transfers that we've made, but just looking for trends, comparing our projected revenue to our projected expenditures, where we have been and where we're projected to go, as well as the trend line. You can see as revenues are flat, expenditures continue to increase over time. We do have to either increase our revenue, decrease our operations, or do a combination of both. When we look at our cash reserves, the green line is our cash reserves over time. The black line is our cash balance policy. The little circles are when our cash balance has increased above our levy cycle. We have made one-time transfers to fund our master facility plan, and then also to fund Colerain Elementary. The cash reserve cap that the state is currently debating and anticipating, this chart illustrates the 30%. So the line across is the 30% cap. The orange bars are where our current fund balance and where our fund balance is projected to go. The reason our fund balance is decreasing is we are on the back end of our levy cycle, so we're starting to spend into our carryover as our expenses exceed our revenue. And this chart is pointed all together. The blue line bars are our revenue, the red bars are our expenditures, with a line across the change in cash balance over time. And the impact to our cash for days on hand. Our cash balance policy is 60 days. We can exceed our 60-day policy through 2028, but by 2029, we're dipping below. So as we've been discussing for several years now, as we get to the end of our levy cycle, we either need to increase revenue, decrease operations, or a combination of both. So here, this is what our levy cycle has been. In 2019, in June, we passed a resolution for our community asking them to support our 7.5 significant emergency levy, and we passed the resolution of a 3% partnership and let our community know we would be back in 3 years. We also made $2.6 million in reductions. In 2019, in November, our community passed that emergency levy, and in November of 21, and again in November of 23, we approved that partnership with our community to say we will continue to stay within that 3% partnership. However, between 2019 and 2023, we were able to extend from 3 years to 8 years the life of that levy. We're currently in May of 25. We have an emergency levy that's expiring in November of 27 and another emergency levy that is expiring in November of 29. However, as we've talked, we're also in the middle of our levy cycle. So we're right in the middle of that bow tie. And the reason they call it a bow tie is because levies are fixed when passed. The revenue doesn't change. So you have to ask for more in the beginning of a levy cycle and spend it in the later years of your levy cycle and break even in the middle. Our community told us in 2019 to come back more often with smaller levies, and that's where our 5 mil, 5-year rolling levy cycle came and what we've been monitoring ever since. At the time when it was passed, it was proposed to be, we would need a 3-year. We've been trying to stretch it to that 5. We've been able to make it to a projected 8. So the assumptions that we've used during our forecast, the factors are to maintain current operations, to utilize our staffing plan based on our projected enrollment, to maintain the school-based Medicaid program, which reimburses our district about $2 million a year. And in November, the board, you, approved including the 2027 emergency levy renewal in the forecast. So the May update also includes that renewal. Some one-time impacts that are impacting our forecast is we have an increase of $900,000 to our current year fund balance. This is because the retirement system changed the retirement dates and actually moved people up 2 fiscal years because it moved them from 1 year earlier, but also put them into June, which is a different fiscal year than July 1. So while we do have a severance fund where we're putting money aside over the career of all our employees so that severance is there when they retire, this 2-year bump wasn't anticipated and therefore increases costs to our general fund. We have science or reading stipends. This was a requirement by the state of Ohio, but the state of Ohio also reimburses the district. However, they're requiring us to report this as a revenue and an expense instead of reducing the expense with the reimbursement. So it's a one-time increase in expenses on our forecast, but not an impact to the district as we were reimbursed for these costs. We had Colerain Elementary and Colerain Middle School renovations and repairs that were required earlier in the fiscal year over the summer last year. And we also have our catastrophic plan, which has required preschool renovations, the Career Center for transition renovations, and the relocating of central support offices. Some of the challenges that we're expecting during our forecast is our special education services and needs are increasing, both increasing in numbers of students, severity of needs, and increasing of costs. We have an aging community, which is equating to decreased enrollment. Our utility costs are increasing as the AI demands and the impact on the grids is being pushed out to all consumers and users. Homeless and foster transportation is a requirement put onto the district so that students that are placed within our district or who may be homeless and residing in another district, we transport to and from our district, which increases costs. We're able to share those costs with Job and Family Services and also the other districts. State and federal laws and regulations, we're currently going through a biennial budget that is currently anticipating reducing our state revenue and capping our carryover, as well as federal laws that may change our grants and eliminate the school-based Medicaid program. We have aging buildings and deferred maintenance, and we have 2 emergency levy renewals coming. However, there are some opportunities that we have been able to achieve during this forecast. We have been able to reduce our operations by $2 million. Due to the change in enrollment, we've been able to adjust our staffing needs for next year. We are able to enter into our OFCC Segment 1 project for Colerain Elementary, and we've been able to do some consolidation of buildings and operations, which should be able to be more efficient and reduce costs moving forward. So again, we've looked at this chart with the revenue is the blue bar, expenditures are the red bar, the line is the change in cash, but the orange piece shows the impact of the emergency levy renewal for 2027. Not only do we need our renewal to continue current operations, funds we've been currently operating on since 2012, but our revenue still does not meet our expenditures, and so we will need additional revenue as we start to enter into the end of that levy cycle and deficit spending. So what are our next steps? We have the biennial budget that we're waiting to see what gets passed. We have our one plan and our report card as we continue to increase student achievement. We have Colerain Elementary's OFCC Segment 1 project that we're starting. We have the emergency levy renewal in 2027. We have anticipated need for increase of revenue, reduction of operations, or a combination of both. And there is also another emergency levy expiring in 2029. So the roadmap moving forward, as we talked in November, is the current renewal for 2027 that we've decided to include into our 5-year forecast. There's also options for new revenue, depending on when the new revenue depends on the amount. The longer we wait, the further into deficit spending we go, the larger the amount we need to ask for as expenses compound. And then there's the 2029 emergency levy that expires that we're currently operating on today and possibly will need renewed. The state does utilize our 5-year forecast as it monitors our financial condition. They look over time for fiscal caution, fiscal watch, and fiscal emergency. When there's caution, they're asking the district to submit a plan, which we would internally do anyway, as we know that we're doing deficit spending. Once it's entered into a watch, there's a required plan that the district has to do and has to implement. And then if you go into fiscal emergency, the state does come in and take over until you're able to change your financial condition, either by increasing revenue, reducing operations, or a combination of both. But it's through the state making those decisions and working with the district. So, questions?
On the second to last page, thank you for that. You had the $2 million, I think, budget, or third last page, back one there. Sorry.
I don't know which way I'm going.
One more. Yeah, reduction of $2 million due to enrollment and staffing changes. Just because we have an open enrollment, that's not going to change. We're not going to add classrooms. we're only adding to the ability that we have room for after we've made these changes. Just
Correct.
so you
We
can just,
do
clarify and agree with that.
annually
People to-
in around January, we start looking at our enrollment projections for the next year as a team. We look at trends,
Yeah.
we look at birth rates, we look at what's happening in our community, and we project enrollment. And then around February, March, we start doing staffing plans based on our we start doing staffing based on our staffing plan, then projected enrollment, and what our target rates are per classroom, class sizes.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make sure the community knows that we're not adding classrooms just because we have open enrollment, that we are still actively trying to look for places to be ahead of anything the state might say with budget changes. So,
Correct,
thank you.
because at this point, open enrollment does not bring additional revenue, so we need to maintain our operations, continue to be more efficient, and watch that we don't grow bigger than we can.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, those go. Did you guys lose it?
No, I'm still on it.
So with that, I ask the board to approve the May 5-year forecast update and related assumptions as listed.
Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All right, we can go ahead and vote. And that passes without opposition.
Finally, I ask the board to approve the temporary appropriations for fiscal year '26. Our fiscal year starts July 1. These temporary appropriations are put together by all of our buildings and departments submitting their budgets for the next year. These have been pulled into our 5-year forecast to make sure that we can maintain our cash balance policy as well as our 3% partnership. And the appropriations include all other funds such as our student activities, debt service funds, permanent improvement, and our anticipated grants. With that, I ask the board to approve the $188 million temporary appropriations as listed.
Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Can vote. That passes without opposition.
Thank you.
And then we do have an item for information. Every year, we pass a series of handbooks that govern staff, students, and so in our operations. So all of the handbooks are listed on here. There's quite an assortment of them. They will come back at the next meeting for approval. And then finally, just some updates. We are in the home stretch, so this is the students' last week of school. So Thursday is the students' last day. Teachers will have their last day on Friday. So excited to wind down another year, and we're already into the planning for the next one. We have successfully had one graduation already under our belt with Northwest High School last Friday, and we had, in addition to our amazing graduation tonight of our military honor, we have Colerain High School graduating on Wednesday of this week. So we want to make sure that we take time to recognize all of the amazing accomplishments of our graduating class and all of our underclassmen who are working their way toward that amazing accomplishment and doing amazing things on the way there. We also had recently a Northwest High School Booster Night of Honor. This is a ceremony where they induct Hall of Fame inductees into the Northwest High School Hall of Fame. It was an amazing night, and I just want to call out the fact that they inducted they had people there who knew them, who coached them, who were teachers and administrators, who introduced these illustrious alumni of the school who have gone on to do amazing things, but also did amazing things while they were there. And I think every single person who spoke that night used the word family, and it just encapsulated the feel of the building, and it was a really nice event, and I just want to congratulate all of those honorees. We also are in a season where we have staff who are retiring. We had an amazing celebration last week to honor the staff who have spent years upon years giving back to the kids, the families, and the community through their service in a lot of various roles. And so when we look around the room and we saw the number of years of service represented, the impact that that group had, they will definitely be missed, but their legacy lives on in the other staff members they have influenced who are here and continuing the tradition of excellence that they set. So we want to just say congratulations to those retirees, to the well-deserved retirement that they're going to have, but the door's always open and we would welcome them back anytime with open arms. That's it for tonight.
All right. And we will move on to board comments. Jim, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Thomas tonight for getting his long overdue diploma from Colerain High School. That was really cool when that happens. And I want to congratulate all the retirees. We were at the luncheon last week, and congratulations to them as well. And everybody have a good summer.
All right, Chris.
Want to thank Daryl and the administrative office for making this happen with Tom tonight. I know it really meant a lot to Tom. Tom's had a tough life. He suffers from PTSD. The right people didn't see his act of heroism. A couple guys put him up for the Medal of Honor for going across that field and bringing him back, but it wasn't the right people. And he ended up with a Bronze Star. Go figure. But he's had a tough life, and this meant a lot to him. It really did. Wanted to congratulate the Northwest High School student and faculty folks for a great graduation the other night. Seemed to go off without a hitch. I'm very pleased with how that went. And that's it.
Just to reiterate, congratulations to Mr. Ludwig, and I love the fact that we acknowledge that. I can't imagine junior year in high school signing up to go fight a war. I mean, just kind of mind-blowing. I want to congratulate the graduates this year. Like everybody said, Northwest was great. Then we got Colerain, obviously, this week. When Nicole was reading all the student achievements, there was just some immense performance improvements. I just want to congratulate all the buildings because I'm sure making that happen is like breaking bones, trying to get things to happen. So I certainly want to acknowledge all their hard work and effort. Congratulations to our BPA national champs. And I just want to thank, we had these board meetings and we get an immense amount of donations, and I just don't want to overlook the donors. They provide quite a bit to us, so I want to thank them for that. And good luck, and don't get in trouble over summer.
Nicole, please.
Yeah, just echo what everyone said about the graduation. Congratulations to everyone, and also the military signees and the academic and athletic signings that we've recently attended. Just congratulations to all of those students, as well as the retirement celebration was very nice. And also recently attended the spring games at Northwest High School. It was really neat to see all of the students that were there volunteering from both high schools and see all the students interacting and playing games. That was just a highlight event there. And also thanks Side by Side and our groups of students this past weekend. We had groups at Colerain High School, Northwest High School, at the YMCA, and they were painting and planting flowers, cleaning up, and it's just awesome to see all those student groups out spending their Saturday morning doing that work on our locations and in our community. So thank you to them as well.
I'd just like to say thank you to the teachers, the students, and the building administrators. At the beginning of this school year, I said my hope was for growth in the school, and we've seen nothing but growth and achievement. It's been a fantastic school year. We've seen a lot of students achieve beyond what they thought they could do, especially as we saw with the PRE and Taylor scores that we saw tonight, remarkable achievements. There have been so many amazing events going on for the end of the school year. I only wish I could clone myself so that I could get to all of them, because every single one I went to, I very much enjoyed and was very impressed by the students in their work. From everything from the Butler Tech Night to art exhibits to the Houston Early Learning Center concert, many different things, and everything was exceptional. So thank you to the students, teachers, and building administrators for making this an excellent school year.
All right, with that, we do have an executive session tonight. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the motion to move into executive session to discuss the discipline of a public employee or official as listed.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
We can go and vote on that. And that passes without opposition. When we return from the executive session, there will not be any more board business, so the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you for attending tonight.